Welcome to the Grace Period podcast, where we gather for honest conversations about faith, everyday life, and the grace that carries us through it all. Think of this podcast like friends sitting down over a cup of coffee, sharing stories, laughing at ourselves, and leading to God's grace together. Amen. Expect some honesty, humor, and a space to ask hard questions. No sermons here, just conversation. Grace Period podcast, making room for grace in real life. This podcast is sponsored by Christ Lutheran Church in Visalia, California. This podcast would not even exist if it wasn't for Christ Lutheran Church here in Visalia. We are so appreciative of their support and their love. My name is Noel Thompson here. I'm the Director of Student Ministries here at Christ Lutheran, and it's a solo pod today. You just have me, so I don't know if that's great news, bad news, but you just have me today. And the reason for that is I kind of decided a little last minute to record this pod, and it's partly because of what today is. Today is Ash Wednesday. Yeah, the season of Lent is beginning today, so I kind of thought, well, let's just jump on here real quick and talk about what does Ash Wednesday mean to us? What does it mean to me? What does the season of Lent mean in general, and as the church is kind of going through one of the more important seasons of its year? We're going to talk about that, and also just want to jump on here and just to kind of keep things going. This joy, I got to say, I have a lot of joy doing this podcast. It is a joy to do it, and I've been very lucky and very blessed to have the people come on. Every single person that's come onto this podcast has truly been a gift, and it's been amazing to hear the feedback and comments about it. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate all the feedback I get on Sunday mornings here. I appreciate the emails, the texts, and it's just great to hear from so many of you that you guys are listening, whether it's on your way to school, on a road trip, or doing the lawn work. It's just awesome. And so I really do appreciate everyone's support, and I hope that also you feel comfortable sharing this podcast. I hope that this is a space where we can just talk about topics that affect us every day, and talk about things where, again, we're all in this together. And so it's been so great to just have everybody come onto this podcast and talk about, teaching and the holiday season, and Paul talking about his job and stuff like that. We've had youth come on to talk about being a music teacher, and so we're just really appreciative, and we're going to have a lot more guests on. And hey, if you want to be a guest, this is an open invitation. It's not, there's no requirement here. There's no application to be on this podcast. If you ever want to be on it and share some things or talk about things, the invitation is always open. The door is always open. So just let me know, text me or contact me. My email is noel@clcvisalia.org. And we'll love to have you on here, because I don't know, this is probably a compliment and an insult towards me. I love to talk. I don't know if you have gathered that yet, but I love talking. I love having conversations, especially about things I know, and especially about things I don't know. And that's been very clear on this podcast. Is I think every episode we have claimed not to be professionals in anything. And so I really do appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate the support as well. And it's been great. And we're going to have some more people come on. I know Pastor Sean's going to come on here hopefully next week, and we'll talk about his trip to the Middle East. We got some more people coming on about their vocations as well. We're just really excited to see where this podcast goes, and we really do appreciate all the support that we have received. To kind of keep the trend going, I did look up some national days here, and so we are going to talk about that before we jump into Lent and Ash Wednesday. But I did get a text from one of our listeners the other day that on February 15th, so just a couple of days ago, we are recording this on Ash Wednesday, February 18th, by the way. But I got a text on February 15th that it was National Wisconsin Day. So, I love the listeners who come and listen and support the show, but they also have time to send me texts like this just to maybe impact my mood. And for those of you that know or don't know, I am from the wonderful state of Minnesota, and Wisconsin is our rival in just about everything. And so I appreciate the shout out that on February 15th, it was National Wisconsin Day. And so I've already talked too much about the state of Wisconsin. We're gonna move on. But it's interesting when I found out that I was kind of curious because I was like, I'll be honest, I have no idea when National Minnesota Day is. And I also had no idea when National California Day is, right? And so I did look it up, and National Minnesota Day is March 1st. So that is coming up. So I might take the day off of work that day. I mean, I might just have a party somewhere. And you all are invited. All right. So March 1st, National Minnesota Day. I hope you guys take the day off of work too. I don't even know what day of the week that is, but it's a day where I'm going to celebrate. March 1st is National Minnesota Day. Sky Yuma. And then on California, that's actually coming up here in just a few days. National California Day is February 22nd. I have no idea if you knew that. I didn't. Just found that out this morning. So we will celebrate National California Day on February 22nd, which is in 4 days. I believe that is Sunday. Ooh, I might have to bring that up on this Sunday as I preach. I might have to bring up that's National California Day. And also March 1st is a Sunday as well. So, those are 2 great Sundays in a row. One Sunday, this Sunday, National California Day, and then March 1st is National Minnesota Day. Man, we are blessed over here. That's awesome. But today is February 18th, and it's National Battery Day, which I tell you what, as a parent, there's nothing like buying toys for kids and then realize that the batteries were not included, and all the kid wants to do is play with that toy, and you don't have batteries in your house for that toy. So that's a great feeling. I'm pretty sure every parent has been there. I've been there so much, I'll be honest. I've been there so much that now I won't even buy a toy if batteries are not included. Yep. That's just who I am now. Although luckily my kids are getting older, so I'm walking slowly out of that world of not buying toys. But I do remember that. I remember it very, very clearly of buying toys, and sometimes, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this. You buy a toy and you find out it's like 10 batteries are included, not just like 2 or 4, but like 10, and AAA and AA. And yeah, we're not good at the Thompson house either on batteries. I feel like we have either 1 million in supply or 0. It's one of those things where when we do buy batteries, we buy it in bulk. And so today is National Battery Day. It's also Pluto Day, which I guess Pluto is not a planet anymore. This is where I'm going to show I have no education in the planets and astrology and the galaxy. I do remember, I am old enough though, that growing up, Pluto was a planet and now it's not. And I guess there are reasons for that. I'm not going to claim to know I know the reasons for that. I think it's because isn't it small? I think the size of Pluto is small, or I do know, I think it's like the farthest away. See, this is where I miss Josh and other people, because I really have no idea. This is where I need someone that knows their planets a lot more than me. But it is National Pluto Day. February 19th, it is National Arabian Horse Day. Again, I don't know if I know anybody who knows horses, but I guess Arabian horses are pretty special, pretty one of a kind. They're pretty unique. And so I did not do any research before this podcast on why they are special and unique, but I know the name Arabian horse, and supposedly they're cool. So congrats to all you Arabian horse people. Tomorrow, February 19th, is your day. Tomorrow is also National Chocolate Mint Ice Cream Day, which growing up, that was my favorite ice cream. Growing up, nothing beat National Chocolate Mint Ice Cream. And until this day, every once in a while too, I'll be honest, every once in a while I do crave it. Like I'll be at Cold Stone with the youth, and I don't know, I just see that ice cream. I see that green ice cream, and a part of me, it's like nostalgia hits, right? You just feel that ice cream. And so you see it and you feel it and you taste it. And every once in a while, I'll have that National Chocolate Mint Ice Cream. So shout out to that. And then February 20th is National Muffin Day, which I love muffins. Muffins are pretty good, pretty great. I was just watching a Seinfeld episode where Elaine eats the top of the muffin, and that is me. The first thing I do when I grab a muffin is I immediately grab the top and I just disconnect it from the rest of the muffin, and that muffin top is pretty good. So National Muffin Day. I also think about Costco. Man, Costco does not mess around on their muffins. Those things are the size of footballs. So I would imagine the most popular muffin out there is blueberry. National, yeah, blueberry muffin. Um, yeah, I can't tell you though the last time I had a muffin. So maybe in a few days I'll have a muffin on National Muffin Day. So that's kind of all the national days we have here today in the next few days. Looking forward to the 22nd as we have National California Day. And then March 1st, National Minnesota Day. I'll be here. I did say I guess I would take I did say I would take the day off of work, but it's a Sunday. I do plan on being here. So, but I'm going to celebrate it here at church. We'll see. Watch out. It's going to be a fun time. So, but yeah, today is Ash Wednesday, and we are in the season of Lent. And for some of you, maybe who haven't grown up in a church that follows, the lectionary, who follows a calendar, Lent could be something that's not familiar. It could be something that maybe is not a big deal. And I know for a lot of people, Lent is a big deal. And so I think Lent is one of those things where across the board, people kind of think about it differently. I'm not going to say celebrate, but they experience Lent differently. And I think overall, Lent can feel like a little mysterious because it does kind of show up quietly on Ash Wednesday, and then you kind of have the season of 40 days, right? Lent is a 40-day season in the church calendar that leads up to Easter, and we know how like Lent ends, right? I mean, Easter is obviously a big deal, as it should be, and it's a major holiday that a lot of people celebrate. But Easter is the concluding part of the season, right? Like Easter is the end of the season, but Ash Wednesday is the beginning. So Lent does start tonight here or today on Ash Wednesday. Again, it's a 40-day season in the church calendar. 40 days, which is echoing the 40 days Jesus spent in the wilderness. It's also 40 days is a number that we see in scripture that represents testing and reflection and transformation. But also, I think it's important to talk about this, is that Lent isn't about like a spiritual performance. It's not a performance, especially here in the Lutheran Church, right? Like Lent is not about proving our devotion to God. It's not about like earning grace. And I think that's we got to make that clear. Like that is not what Lent is about. But, because grace is not seasonal. Grace is constant, always going, always there. So if Lent isn't about, earning love and earning peace from God, like then what is it? And I think Lent is more about honesty. It's a season where we slow down and to face the parts of ourselves that we, typically avoid, where we usually avoid our habits, our distractions, our egos, our fears, our tendency to rely on everything but God. And it's not like a dramatic like self-denial. I think sometimes it can be that, but I think it's more about clarity, right? And we hear this a lot when people give up something for Lent. The point isn't like what they give up. The point is more about the awareness. And I think the whole giving up something for Lent has kind of lost that. Because again, it's not about what you give up. It's about the awareness, about what we cling to as people, what numbs us, what keeps us from noticing, our dependence on God and our need for grace. And so Lent kind of strips away the illusions, and that can feel really uncomfortable. And I think that's also a part of Lent too, that I think, I'm not going to say we forget, but Lent should and could be a very uncomfortable time, because it focuses on the cross. And I think the cross in itself is not comfortable, right? And so in the Lutheran Church, we do talk about the theology of the cross, that the idea that God is revealed not in in power and glory, but in weakness and suffering, not in triumph, but in self-giving love. And that's what Lent trains us to look, is at that cross. And I think during the season of Lent, we sit with that vulnerability. We acknowledge the suffering and in ourselves, but also in the world, right? Like there's so much suffering in the world, but there's also suffering in us as well. So we have to resist the urge to like rush to Easter without first walking through the season of Lent, which is starts on Ash Wednesday, and then we have right Palm Sunday and Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday. Like all those days make Easter what it is. But I also want to say and remind you all that Lent is not about like despair. I think it's more about preparation. It's about clearing space so that that Easter Sunday really means something. That's why I love Lent. Like that's also why I love being Lutheran, is because I think that we, as in the Lutheran Church, we use the season of Lent to prepare ourselves for Easter, and that's what makes Easter Sunday just so great. And I think that's why it's not I don't know what the right word here is. I don't want to say dangerous, or but it's like if you skip Lent, like Easter kind of becomes shallow. So for me, like that's why we shouldn't skip Lent, because I think Lent brings the context to Easter, and so I do think, again, I don't want to use the word dangerous, and I apologize. I don't have someone here to bounce off so I can find my word, but I just think it's incredibly important, vital, that we really do walk through the whole season of Lent, starting today on Ash Wednesday. And so that's what makes Easter so great, because Lent deepens that story. Lent gives us a context of why Easter is so important. So Lent reminds us that we are not, self-sufficient. We are not invincible. We are not the center of the universe, right? And it's not crushing either. Like Lent is not necessarily a guilt trip. In fact, it's the opposite. It's freeing, because if we are not Jesus, then we can finally, rest with Jesus. And so it's a reminder sometimes of our pride and how much our pride gets away. So whether you observe Lent like really hardcore, or if you don't, that's okay. But I also want Lent to be a season where it's on your mind, not just starting today, but almost every day as we prepare for Easter, which is what, the first week of April, right? Like it's 40 days away. And so I do hope that this is a time where we pray more intentionally, we engage in scripture, or maybe it's just simply slowing down and paying attention and really being present in the moment, where we return to what matters. We return to grace. We return to what happened to Jesus on the cross. We return to a God who's always near to us, who is always accepting us. And so Lent is not like about something, Lent is not about becoming someone new, right? It's about remembering who we already are. It's not necessarily a diet. It's not a punishment. It's a focus. And I think that's where, for us, we focus on, a lot of times Lent, we do focus on the 40 days Jesus spent in the wilderness, where he fasts before his ministry. So that 40-day period has kind of become the model of Lent. And over time, right, the wider church has adopted fasting during these 40 days before Easter. And so in many places, people obviously will fast from food. But it wasn't really about like a random sacrifice. It's more about the simplicity and solidarity. And so and I think that's kind of too about the whole fasting thing. And I kind of want to touch upon that, because you know that's where we hear about, oh, I'm giving something up for Lent, right? Like I'm giving up something, this, and a lot of people do that. And I think a lot of times people focus on, soda. It's usually like food related, which oftentimes, like, that's kind of what they did back in the day too, was they would kind of give up food. But I think here's the important distinction, is like fasting is not about proving devotion. I think it's more about humility and again going back to focus, especially in the Lutheran Church, especially after Reformation. Like fasting was completely reframed. Like Martin Luther, he did not reject fasting outright. In fact, he said fasting can be a fine outward discipline, but I think Martin Luther was very clear about one thing: fasting does not like earn forgiveness. It does not make God love you more. It does not justify you. Like grace does that already. Grace alone does that. And so I think us for Lutherans giving up something for Lent, it's not about scoring spiritual points, right? It's not earning a grade. It's a tool. It's not necessarily a requirement, right? And I think I know a lot of Lutheran pastors. I don't want to say they're anti giving up something, but I know a lot of Lutheran pastors that don't really follow that because I think we as a culture have kind of equated giving up something as to equal, attention or earning more favor. And that's we have drifted away, I think, from the whole fasting thing. And so, the whole fasting thing it's more about awareness, raising awareness for us on our dependency, right? And I think a lot of times I used to always give up something for Lent, and I would give up something that was easy for me to give up. Like, I don't know if that makes sense to you. Like, I really didn't learn a lot when I gave up something for Lent because I would give up something that I know I could give up. And so I didn't really raise awareness in my heart. I didn't really raise awareness on how much dependent I am on some things. And so I think that's part of it too, right? And so giving up something for Lent can really not expose you. Sorry, that's a horrible way of saying it, but I think what you give up for something in Lent, like, again, the whole point of it is to raise awareness on how dependent we are on things instead of God. And I think sometimes the whole fasting thing can be used to shame, but again, the whole point is freedom. And so Lent, you have that like kind of topic of giving up something for Lent, but really, it's it's more about preparing for what Jesus did for you on the cross. Because again, it's about reorientation. Lent is that season where we try to reduce the noise. We become more aware. We try to give up, control, where we trust God more. So if you don't give up something during the season, like, you're not failing Lent. But if you are giving up something, I do want to encourage you, like, give up something that you're really dependent on. Like for me, I could easily give up certain things, but I'm not really dependent on that. And I think and so for me, anytime people ask, like, do you give up something? Or if I get asked if they should give up something, I say, you know what? Like, give up something that you're really dependent on. That would be really, really, really hard for you to give up. And so for me, it would probably be like social media or a phone, to be honest. Like, I depend on my phone and social media probably a lot more than I probably want to care to admit. And so I would again, that would be something I would probably want to give up because I think it would raise an awareness on how much I depend on that, more for my insecurity, more for my confidence, maybe more for my ego. And so for me, like, I think that would be something I could give up and be like, wow, I rely on my phone probably a little bit more than I should. I rely on social media probably a little bit more than I should, when I should probably be going to God or Jesus, right? Um, more instead of what is happening on my phone. And so I think that's the whole point, is to raise awareness. Now, I can give up soda for 40 days. That's but here's the thing, people, I'm not really going to learn much about myself if I give up soda, because it's pretty easy for me to give up soda for 40 days. It really is. It's really easy. So I'm not really going to raise awareness if I give up something. I'm not really going to learn more about my dependency if I give up soda. And so I think that's the thing about giving up something. The point of fasting is to, again, kind of for you to raise that awareness in your heart and your mind, and also change your perspective on what we're dependent on. So if you do give up something, that would be my encouragement. Give up something that would be really hard, and journal about it. Don't just give it up and leave it there. Journal about it. Pray about it. I mean, write down how it affects you. Write down, how your perspective has changed during this 40 days of you giving up on something. Because I think a lot of people just give up something and they just leave it at that. But we got to dig deeper. We got to go deeper with it. So if you do give up something, reflect on it, right? I mean, think about it, pray about it, right? Journal about it. How is it affecting you? How is it affecting your mood? How is it affecting your dependency? How is it affecting your life in a social way, right? And so I've kind of talked about this whole giving up thing probably more than I wanted to, but I also just think it's something that I think people have kind of yeah, I just think the intention of fasting and giving up something from Lent has kind of lost its way a little bit. And I also think, it's okay if you don't give up something at all. And it doesn't have to be Lent, right? Like you can give up something whenever you want. It doesn't have just to be these 40 days. Again, we've used that model of Jesus being in the wilderness fasting. Again, it kind of goes back to that and the early church, right? When Christians would, early Christians would wait to get baptized on Easter, and they would kind of they would fast during that time. So there is some origins here about it. But again, it's okay if you don't give up something. It is absolutely okay. And so don't worry about it. It's all right. But, again, I think the popular thing about giving up is chocolate or social media, coughing, fast food. But it's, again, we don't give up something to impress God. We don't give up something to earn grace. We don't give up something. We don't give something up because God needs us to suffer a little bit. Grace is not for sale. And so, again, it's mostly Lent is about preparation. And so, and fasting can be a part of that preparation. Fasting is not the part of it's just a part of it. It's not required. So I really want you all to just remember that. And so I'll be honest, I'm trying to think of a time I actually gave up something for Lent and followed it like for all 40 days. It's been a while. But again, if you are giving up something, I'll be praying for you. Hope that goes well. And again, my encouragement for you is that if you are thinking about giving up something, and you don't have to start on Ash Wednesday, it could be a few days from now. Think about it. I would encourage you to try it out. Give up something that'd be really hard to give up. I think it'll be a good learning lesson. I know in Thailand, when I go to Thailand for our Thailand trips, the phones don't really work because of like the service and stuff, and that's always eye changing for me. It always changes perspective. Thailand kind of forces me to not use my phone a lot, and so those first few days are always kind of interesting and maybe a little bit rough. But I tell you what, about halfway through the trip, I realized how much of a blessing it is not to always be attached to my phone. So yeah. But today is Ash Wednesday, and if you have never been to a service, you probably have seen the image, right, of someone with a smudge of ash in the shape of a cross on their forehead, and so that is it's kind of an unusual way to begin a season. It's like it's not a celebration of hype. It's not it's not a service of hype, or it's not a service of a big celebration. It's just simply ashes. And kind of wherever you go in churches, as they kind of advertise their Ash Wednesday worship, that you most likely will hear the same sentence in their marketing, but it is, remember you are dust, and the dust you shall return. And that is often said to you as ashes are placed on your forehead. And that's not exactly a motivational slogan. And I think that's kind of the point. Ash Wednesday is one of the few days in our culture that invites us to slow down and face something we usually avoid, and that is our limits. Because, gosh, we live in a world that is just simply built on achievement and productivity, constant noise, self-improvement, and reinvention. And we're told that we have to like optimize everything. We have to optimize our bodies, our careers, our relationships, even our spirituality. And I think Ash Wednesday just gently pushes back on that. Ash Wednesday simply reminds us that we are human. We're not machines. We're not a brand. We're not projects to be perfect. We are just human. We get tired. We make mistakes. We hurt people. We get hurt. We try again. We fall short. And most importantly, it's a reminder that yes, we are mortal. And I think that's something strangely like powerful about saying that stuff out loud. And that's why I'll be honest, when I was younger, I never really understood Ash Wednesday. I don't know if I just to be honest, never really paid attention to the service or really didn't really focus on it. But as I've gotten older, it has kind of become one of my more like favorite services, just because it is that reminder that we are mortal and we do have limits, and we aren't, we're not perfect. And there's something about this service that I love because it's not necessarily a dramatic service, but and it's not like fear based either. It's just a very very honest service, and there's something about getting ashes on your forehead and being reminded that we are human and that we are dust, and we're going to return to dust, and then receiving communion. Like there's something extremely powerful in that. And again, this is not a service like that, to shame you, right? Like the sentence, remember you are dust and to dust you shall return. That phrase isn't meant to shame you. I think it's more meant to humble us. And I think that's the best way of saying it. It's a service of humility to bring us back to that we're going to be, to bring us back to earth, to remind us that we don't have to carry the weight of everything, right? In the Lutheran Church, we talk a lot about grace. So about the idea that we don't have to earn our worth, that we are loved not because, we're impressive or the things we have achieved or, our resume, but we're loved just simply because we are who we are. And Ash Wednesday kind of makes that message like stronger, right? Because if we're honest about our imperfections, our egos, our blind spots, our failures, then love becomes even more radical. It means we are known fully, still loved. The ashes placed in the shape of a cross um, points to a God who doesn't stay distant from suffering or brokenness, but like enters into it. A God who understands dust. So it's one of those services where it doesn't, I don't know, you don't have to be deeply religious, or like it doesn't matter if you're deeply religious or cautiously spiritual or you're just listening out of curiosity, right? I think Ash Wednesday is a service for simply, I think that anyone can understand it, but also really comprehend the power of Ash Wednesday, that we are mortal, and that's okay. And we're not invincible, and we don't have it all together. It's a service where it's a reminder that we are all sitting there in that room, and none of us have it together, and and none of us have the power to fix everything. And I think that's that reminder of Ash Wednesday, is that we are not perfect, and we all are on common ground. But guess what? Like God understands that, and God enters through it, and God knows who we are, but loves us anyway. And so, Lent, it begins today. It's Lent is less about giving something up and more about just making space. And that's what the next 40 days are. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here on the Grace Period podcast. But Lent is a space to reflect. It's a season to notice what actually matters. It's a season to let go of kind of what's hollow, and it's a space to return to what really grounds us. And so and it begins on Ash Wednesday. And Ash Wednesday doesn't start with the answers, I think. And that's why I love it too. It just starts with honesty, starts with humility. And I think that's probably the most hopeful place to begin. What better way to start the season than to start a season with honesty and humility, and a reminder that none of us are perfect, and we all have limits, and we all make mistakes, and we're all kind of in this together, right? And within that, guess what? It's like we can stop pretending and we can finally rest. And I think that's probably a part of Lent too that needs to be shared more and more. This could be a season of rest because it is a reminder, right, that it ends on the cross, and we can rest knowing that God has our back no matter what, that God loves us no matter what. And as we prepare, it's interesting as we prepare for this, during this season of preparation, right, of what happens at the end, we can actually rest. And so Ash Wednesday again is just a great way of starting Lent. But I also want to just quickly emphasize that even though we are dust, right, but we're not disposable. Like, we're not limited, right? We're not meaningless. Um, if that story is true, then the dust does not end with us. It's the beginning of something being remade, and that's where the season starts, right? Not in perfection, but in truth. And so I think it's important to remind ourselves that too. It's like when you're told you're dust, no, that doesn't mean you're not important. In fact, it's the opposite. It's that God made all of us in His image. We have come from this earth, and we will end on this earth, but we will live on into life everlasting with Jesus. So we have two services here at Christ Lutheran Church. One at noon, which is about an hour away, and so you probably won't even listen to this just because by the time I upload it, it might be already noon. But we do have another service tonight at 6:00, and I hope that you'll be able to attend there or watch in person at clcvisalia.org. But again, we're going through the season of Lent here, and I think our Lent season is the joy of generosity, and we're going to talk about what it means to be generous with our time and our skills and our talents, and how we can receive joy through that. And then we do have some great plans here for Easter Sunday. And here at Christ Lutheran Church, again, we do have Palm Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday, and Holy Week is always a great time here. So we'll talk about a little bit more about that as time draws near. But we're just really, really excited for you to be listening with us. And thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope it wasn't really a conversation, but we hope just my little talk here gave you something new to think about, whether it was an idea, a story, or just a fresh perspective on everyday life. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on future episodes, and share this podcast with friends or family who might enjoy it too. We love hearing from our listeners, so connect with us online and let us know what topics you'd like for us to explore. Until next time, keep asking questions, stay curious, and enjoy a little moments that make life meaningful. I pray and hope that you have a wonderful season of Lent. May you always know that God is with you no matter what, that nothing can separate you from God's love. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Amen.